Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nuganomics with David Toulis.
I've just received in the mail the second book that I'm going to be reading from one of my favorite authors. His name is Charles Hugh Smith, and the title is A Radically Beneficial World, Automation, Technology, and Creating Jobs for All. He is an uber free market defender and a source of genius for anyone who cares about local economy and the free market. And we are looking here in our station at the other side of the crisis. This is a financial crisis that will, as I like to suggest, reduce your net worth by half. You, my listener, since you're going to just sit and listen with some excitement to my line of argument, but not do anything, you are going to lose half of your net worth, maybe more. And if you're a dependent on the state, when the lights go out among the good people in Washington, you will be even damaged even more than that, I would like to suggest. Now, I'm not making any hard and fast predictions, and I'm not a prophet, so take these suggestions lightly, if you will. But Smith is a very good author, and I have not even peeked into this volume that came in the mail yesterday. I'm very excited to read more about that. The prospect of a decentralized, distributed economic and political order. I know that sounds terribly boring, but distributed is, in fact, the marketplace. The marketplace is there. It's distributed. When you have a political economy, as we have today, you have centralization and a non-distributed economy. You have economic systems. You have marketplaces that are controlled by fiefs, by cartels, by monopolies, and often in disregard of constitutional provisions. We here in Tennessee have it illegal to have any monopoly or cartel. And yet the state is the operator of a multitude of cartels and monopolies, a multitude, the most valuable of which, the biggest of which, is bigger and worth more than the state itself. And that, of course, is the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System, the TCRS, worth about $50 billion in liquid capital. The state down there in the 30s somewhere. Well, this is David Toulis, and we want to talk now with Dr. Dwight Mayberry. Dr. Mayberry is the founder of Mayberry After School Learning Center. He is a supporter of public education. He spent 20 years in public education. The last stint was as superintendent of schools in District 269. District 269 in northern Illinois, in which there were two schools, and then at the end of his departure, there was a consolidation into one set of buildings. Right, Dr. Mayberry. Well, tell my listener what you're doing, why you've moved to Tennessee. You've been here now you're in the second year of operation of this after school learning center. What is the problem that you're trying to fix with this little nonprofit organization?
Well, David, last 5 years, I always came down here to Chattanooga for Christmas and for around the 4th of July to visit my grandkids. And I noticed they are not reading well. Matter of fact, they're really not reading. So when I moved down a year and a half ago, my grandsons, I had them Monday and Tuesday after school, and we'd work for a couple hours on reading and math because they weren't even on first grade level, and yet they were being told they were. But we worked on that. Their reading, we also exposed it to math. And then the next thing, my neighbor was asking, I've got a grandchild. Would you help that grandchild? And then another person asked, another person. Then
well, hold on. You're going too fast for my listener. Hold on, Dr. Mayberry. You are 72 years old, and now when did the story you're telling us? How old were you when that began? That
71.
Okay, so this was last year. Well, how was? Tell us about the first party that asked you to help with that family's children. What was the situation? What was the relationship you had with those people? Give us some detail.
Well, they were neighbors, and matter of fact, she was an English teacher, retired English teacher, and she was very upset with what's happening with her granddaughter. And we talked, and then another person came. Then some people at the church, Seventh-day Adventist Church on Nixon Pike, they said, we used to have a school here, and that closed in 2004, and there are some rooms there. you could have a room. And they said, we'll fix it up. You can have it used rent-free, utilities-free. So I started a year ago, this last January, in one classroom, and with about 3 assistants. We're all volunteers. This is our second year we're in operation, and we have 25. That's where my cutoff is. I have turned down over 50 children that have applied for various reasons, but we have 25 right now, and I have 6 additional volunteers helping me.
When do your classes meet?
We meet Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 4 days a week from 3:30 to 5:30. We're after school. That's why it's called the after school program. I chose to use my name. I wasn't going to, but you know, the name Mayberry in Carolina is a home name. And you might know my relatives, Aunt B, Opie, not really, but anyway. So I decided, well, hey, that's a kind of a comfy zone for people.
Yeah, Mayberry is not a vanity you're suggesting. Mayberry tells something about the past. It tells something about nostalgia, maybe the way things were when things were plainer and more open and maybe freer.
More basic, more down to earth, yes. And that's what our program's about. Only reading, only math. And I have visited over 6 schools, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to mention any schools, and I'm not going to mention any teachers in that. There are some good things in the Hamilton County schools, but one thing that's not happening is they're not teaching reading. I think they pulled the plug on phonics. I think they pulled the plug on a good basal reading program. We use the SRA reading series. It stands for Science Research Associates. And it's a well-developed, it's been out there. Some of your listeners may remember when they were in grade school 20, 30, 40 years ago. They may have used the SRA, their kits, and they have short stories with a lot of questions dealing with vocabulary, dealing with prefixes, suffixes, a lot of word meanings, and they keep progressing. And I've been told by so many, well, those are old, they're no longer any good.
When you said keep progressing, I almost misheard you to say to keep guessing. Now, guessing is what is sort of required in the modern look-say and whole word method, where precision of words and the acquisition of longer words are really rendered impossible because of the look-say method's emphasis on words as pictures. You teach phonics. In a nutshell, how does phonics succeed in teaching a child to read, Dr. Mayberry?
I'm not sure we teach phonics like I would in a regular classroom structure, because we're taking children that are already behind and we're trying to get them caught up, and eventually we hope that they'll be ahead. Our reading program begins with about kindergarten.
This is David Toulis, and caller, you're live on the air with Dr. Dwight Mayberry here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. What's your question?
I'm 58 years old. I come from a suburban school system outside of Philadelphia that was very wealthy, but I'm angry at all of you so-called educators. I have to go on. I'm going to ask a question. When I was in 7th grade, I noticed that your whole system is fraudulent. By using socialism as a means of brainwashing children, and there's a lot of facts that support this. I'm going to ask you a question after I make this statement, though.
Yeah, make it a question.
I suggested that we have free enterprise schools. I mean, I can choose where to get my hair cut, where to eat, but I can't choose where to educate my children. Now my 9-year-old comes home with spelling errors, and the teacher says, "Oh, we're not concerned about errors. We're concerned about the concept and the context." And the way they're teaching math with Common Core, the system should be shut down and every educator arrested for fraud. Yeah, I mean, how in the world can we have a system now 100 years old and kids don't know how to read? This is absurd. It's absurd.
All right, what's your comment, Dr. Mayberry, about this?
Well, this is how we take and do our reading. When they read a short story and they answer the questions, when they have completed the section, either one of my associates or myself will sit down, we score it with them, and then we go back to each question that they missed. That's where the importance of the reading program is, because we want them to understand why they got it wrong and what the correct answer is. So we work on their learning. Well, I don't care if it's math or whether it's reading. That's the thing. When they do a math worksheet for us, we circle the wrong answers. We're not filling checks all over, but we go back then and we redo the problem with them so they learn.
Well, explain to my listener, Dr. Mayberry, Dwight Mayberry, why phonics works. What is it in phonics that makes it work? What is it in the state's system of education and training that doesn't work?
If you have a good phonics program, a first grader can look at, for the first time, he might see the word weekend. If they have a good phonics program, they can learn and sound it out on their own and say weekend and be successful at it. They can, nugonomics, they could take that word, if there's a good phonics program, they will be able to solve and pronounce it. And then they can also pick up some knowledge because they've learned prefixes, they've learned suffixes, and they start putting this together. What we're trying to do, which is a problem with education, we're trying to get the children to be thinkers, not reflectors of other people's thoughts. We want their little, you'd be amazed. The other day, when we get done early, I had a first grader playing one of my volunteers in chess. And for a first grader, man, to play chess, you really have to think. And that's what we're trying to do. We want them to understand, okay, here was the question. This is what you answered. Let's talk about this question a little bit.
Well, Dr. Mayberry, when you say the ultimate goal is to help your student to think, that's something that's really not in view of what you're doing in an after-school learning program. What you're trying to do is getting the basics down, which is reading itself, right? If you don't have reading itself down, and you can't make something out of a word, let's say automation or beneficial, the two somewhat medium length words. If you can't use those words and understand them and hear them, you can't use them, right? And therefore your thought is blocked at every point where those words come up, or they need to come up.
Yes, we are going through. We have to get the basics across to the students, like in math. If they don't have the math facts down, they don't understand that opposite of addition is subtraction, opposite of division is multiplication. They don't have these concepts down. We have to work on them, and we will until they have their addition, multiplication, all their facts. They've got to have that. But then we can take and we spend time with that. Then we can start advancing into powers, exponents, and things like this. And
so it sounds like you might be taking students at Mayberry After School Learning Center that are seniors in high school. Is that true, or these are all just younger children?
We only take them 1 through 8 because there is the focus is on first grade, second grade, third grade, and on up. If Hamilton County schools, like other districts, that focus on their primary grades, they will notice a major impact in their middle schools and high schools, because we're getting too many students that are slipping through. They can't read. And if you can't read, you will not be completely successful in mathematics, because we have word problems. You're not going to understand social studies, and you're missing out. You've got to have the reading skills.
Well, in a nutshell, Dr. Mayberry, what is the main point, the main fact, if you will, in mathematics that students need to get? What do they need to have, or what curriculum do they need to have, and what are they getting instead in the public sector?
Well, I'm not sure what they're getting in the public sector here. I can tell you what, when I was superintendent just 3 years ago, we used the Holt Reinhardt Winston series. It was a basic program, and we tested our students. And I know testing is a big thing, but we only tested twice a year. We tested in the fall, the third week of school, to find out where the student's ability was. We tested in the spring, 3 weeks before school is out, to see how much progress that child had made. And you can overdo testing, but most of them test and test and test for their own benefit. Testing needs to be for the benefit of the student, so you know where he's having the problems and then you work and focus in on that.
Well, the story we've been hearing in Chattanooga, Dr. Mayberry, is that testing is really for the benefit of the system. So the system can monitor the student's progress and apply resources to the student body more astutely, apparently.
Well, I would challenge that because I don't think the system's using their information. They have a major problem here in reading. And if you have a major problem, you better start addressing it. I'd see that SRA reading labs. Number one, I'd bring in those for grades K1 and 2 at least to start off. And I do a training program for the K1, 2 teachers, how to use them. It's an individualized program. If you have 20, well, let's say if you got first graders, you only have about 15, 18. If you have 18 first graders, you've got 18 individual different children, and you need to address at their level. And that's why we use SRA reading labs in cooperation with it, because it's an individualized program. You've got to come across, yes, teach some of the basics to the whole group, but don't teach to the bottom student. Teach to your top students and bring your bottom on up. That's where the teacher is most effective, not with the smart children are going to learn in spite of teachers. It's the bottom, the lower ones that are struggling. They learn because of teachers.
Later today, make sure you go to Nuganomics.com and also possibly EastridgeNewsOnline.com, which will be posting an essay from me on this topic. And I'm going to have for your interest at Nuganomics.com a cover of the book my children, my wife and I used to teach our children how to read. It is a phonics book. And it's has no pictures. It's not very exciting, but with it, you, my listener, can teach your recalcitrant student and a school system using a volume like that, or even using a system such as Science Reading Associates Labs that Dr. Mayberry uses. These are remedies for a serious problem. We are brought to you by Eric Pelton, the numbers guy. The accountant who does tax returns for those liable thereto. He's a CPA. He's been at it for nearly 40 years. Eric Pelton has. His website is ejpelton.com, and the number in Brainerd is 622-3156. That's 622-3156. He's got an advertisement on our station about 1099s. That's something you need to consider at the moment. Also, if you have a screen repair that needs to be done on your cell phone or your device, make sure you go to Cell Surgeon and ask for the $10 off for that. That will tell Anthony or Adam that you are my listener here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, the station for the man who matters, run here on this show by the website for the man who matters, Nuganomics.com. We're talking with Dr. Dwight Mayberry, who runs an after-school program, a nonprofit charity, a 501c3 here in Hickson. It's called Mayberry After School Learning Center. He's a former superintendent in Illinois, from Illinois, I should say, excuse me, right?
Right.
No, there's no S. You don't hear the S. And he's got 25 children tucked away for after-school lessons. It's at 6424 Hickson Pike. It's in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. He is an Adventist, and the church is offering its facility for him, though only 4 of his 25 children happen to go to that particular place of worship. And he deals with students in the 1st through the 8th grade. Well, what is there something you recommend for parents just quickly, Dr. Mayberry?
Number one, pay attention to your children. Take Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Spend a half hour each one of those 5 nights with your children. Read to them, have them read to you, talk to them. If your child is struggling, and Tennessee is low in the nation, Chattanooga is low in Tennessee, get some help out there. And we're here to try and help as much as we possibly can. I've been asked 3 different times if I would start a branch over in other places. And the thought is there, but right now we're just focusing on making what we're doing here in Hickson as successful as possible. And our students are succeeding. They're doing great. We have a little motto: good, better, best. Never let it rest till your good is better and your better is best. We try to, I don't care what ability a student is on, we try to get them to think that excellent means 100%. And we put work on their level so they get 100%. And they mark it on their sheet. Excellent. They do the marking and they take the pride in it.
Well, that's very grandfatherly approach. Dr. Mayberry has 2 grown children and 3 grandchildren, and he got involved in this free market sector work, looking at his grandchildren here in the Chattanooga area who were needing help in reading. And perhaps the best thing we can recommend here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio is to read with your children, read to them, have them read to you. If you have family, well, I know you're not a Christian, but your Christian friends who have family worship when they read the Bible and pray together every day, the child can practice the reading for the family, and then when the time comes for, instead of dad reading the Word of God, have the boy or the girl read it. That's her demonstration for the day after her work on those passages. This is David Toulis, and I've got some things I want you to hear. Hang on.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nuganomics with David Toulis.
This is not good.
This is David Toulis. I do thank you for giving us a couple of minutes of your time. If you need to go into business but don't have your own idea for what your business should look like, well, buy into somebody else's plan. And you do that by engaging Bruce Krebs at Entrepreneur Source. He is the man to get you into a franchise. He has the means whereby you can obtain $150,000 in capital for your business, paying yourself during the startup phase. And that's only through Entrepreneur Source, the know-how place for the man who is going to business, who's going to have a plan B. You need a plan B. Call Bruce Krebs. Get on his calendar now. 875-5621. That's 875-5621. Bruce Krebs, call him now. You have heard me long enough. You don't need to be dithering on the point of a plan B. Make sure also that you want to be prepared for the coming crises, plural, notice, that you go to P5 Preparedness, the shop on East Brainerd Road. Duke Newcomb, who has our preparedness show every Thursday, is there. He also runs classes. There are many classes on preparation for parlous times, as we could call them, ahead. And that is at P5 Preparedness on East Brainerd Road. Do go there and make sure you know that if you have a cell phone problem on your screen, you get $10 off on a screen repair at Cell Surgeon, which is right next to Old Chicago's Pizza in Northgate Mall. The number is 668-0100, 668-0100, open Sunday. And that's $10 off. Just ask for the $10 off and say that you are a fan of our radio station, the one that covers local economy and the free markets. We are the station for Keon Rose, for Sean Hannity, for Colin Cowherd, and most days at 11, Binary with Russell the Kid, how to make use of your intelligent device, the gigantic capacity your smartphone has. You use 2% of it. Well, learn how to use 4%, all right? And that's you do that by listening to Russell here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, the station that makes you a man of resources in many areas. Do you know that the public school system is not about creating a free people? It is, in fact, all about creating a subjected people, a people who are subject. And we know that this is true because the history of public education is monumental, and much is published. For example, in 1908, a noted humanist named G. Stanley Hall said that illiteracy has many benefits, and among them is this: the knowledge which illiterates acquires probably on the whole more personal, direct, environmental, and probably a much larger proportion of it practical. Okay, so if you're illiterate, your knowledge is practical, and moreover, they escape much eye strain and mental excitement. Being illiterate, and many other things being equal, are probably more active and less sedentary. And he points out that illiterates escape certain temptations, such as vacuous and vicious reading. You really can't be involved in that now, can you? Perhaps we are prone, he says, to put too high a value both upon the ability required to attain this art and the discipline involved in doing so. Another one of our great ones, Roy writes in a book that earlier psychology regarded mind as a purely individual affair in direct and naked contact with the external world, right? Got that? At present, the tendency is to conceive individual mind as a function of social life, as not capable of operating or developing by itself, but as requiring continual stimulus from social agencies and finding its nutrition in social supplies. Those are all euphemisms, and you can figure out what they are euphemisms for. But I would suggest that they are euphemisms for the modern progressive welfare, democratic and Republican oriented state that surrounds us and provides us at every turn free this and free that, and helps at every turn, helps for the family and other such pious entities as that. And we are somewhat skeptical of these claims, and we really don't want to be treated as the behaviorists would like to see us. They've seen us this way for the past 100 years, right? So it's really nothing new to say it, but we are a little tired of being subjects, and we would like to be more free and more prosperous here in Hamilton County and Chattanooga. One little body that's working in this direction toward the liberation of the illiterate or the functionally illiterate person is Dr. Dwight Mayberry. He runs here in Hickson Mayberry After School Learning Center. He is a former superintendent of District 269 in Northern Illinois. That started off with 2 schools, and I think now has one school. Dr. Mayberry is a supporter of public education. He is an Adventist, and his after school setup serves 1st through 8th graders in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and there are a couple of classrooms there at 6424 Hickson Pike. Well, Dr. Mayberry, what is your reason for this after school operation? What is the damage you're trying to fix?
It started with my grandchildren, David. First of all, I was coming down here twice a year, Christmas and around the 4th of July, and visit my daughter and her children. And we found out that as I listened, they can't read. They're not getting the skills. They're not being taught the skills in school that they should be having. So I have them now in the 2nd, 3rd grade, and for the last couple of years, they've been missing out. So I started working with them when I moved down here about 2 years ago. Well, it'll be 2 years ago this coming summer. And every Monday and Tuesday after school, I work with them on their reading and their mathematics. And then another person asked me, would you help work with mine? And then another one. Then some people at church said, you could use one of our classrooms. It's sat in there.
Well, let me throw at you the question that comes from the perspective of the state. Why is reading so important? Are you not overvaluing reading? Are there not many advantages to being functionally illiterate? Are there not? I'm asking you that in all seriousness.
There is, because you can live downtown Chattanooga and get all the free benefits of living under the bridge, hand out this and hand out that. I've helped with some programs for meals, giving meals here and doing that. But those people are not finding out what real life is like. Life is fun. It's an enjoyment. And school is fun. The more you, as I visit classrooms and things like that, I can tell whether there's happy things going on. Are the students' work, positive work, on display in the classroom? Are they enjoying being in the classroom? We have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 3:30 to 5:30. We have various numbers when they can come of students, but we have about 25 right now that are coming on a regular basis. And school is fun. It's fun for the adults. It's fun for the children because they're learning. They're being very successful. And when they're struggling and they have problems, those are challenges for us to overcome. And we deal with the problems and we get them to understand that. And they are so excited about it.
Well, at worst, if you're functionally illiterate or illiterate, you live under a bridge and are waiting handouts and you're waiting for the free dinner. But not so dramatically. If you are functionally illiterate, you are dependent in other ways, maybe not quite as stark. Maybe you don't have as smelly clothes as the person under the bridge, but you still are dependent in other ways. And you're suggesting that it would be that you are awaiting the ministries of the state in many areas. You are awaiting handouts. You are in fact dependent upon other people, right? If you're not literate.
And that's a community problem. I think it's a problem that the Chamber of Commerce and other people need to address here. And I know they say, hey, our high schools are not providing the people with the proper education to take over some of the jobs we hear. So we have to hire from other parts from the country. Hey, our high schools here need to have career programs involved into the education system. So when they finish 12th grade, they can slide right into some of these very successful jobs. And we don't have to bring in from South America, the West Coast, or the North. Our students here in Chattanooga have as many brains as any place else. They are good young people. We need to address and help them become successful. Our motto is good, better, best. Never let it rest till your good is better and your better is best. And that's why we get our children, first graders, we want them to strive for excellence, 100%. And they do.
And that's because you, Dr. Mayberry, as a Christian, you value, as Christianity requires, you value each individual, and you think that each individual is called by God. He's made in God's image. He's called by God to accomplish certain important things here on the earth, and that he needs to be equipped to do so. And reading is the way of acquiring skills, right? If you read, you can acquire any skill very likely in pretty short order, right? You just have to intensely read and study in a particular area, make some personal contacts, and then you've absorbed a new means of doing business or serving other people.
Well, you take math, because next to reading is math. One of the key problems that children are having today when they get in the middle and the high school is they can't do the reading word problems. That takes reading. And if you can't take and read and map it out and draw it out, you're going to struggle. And reading is the key that opens the doors to better jobs, happier life, the whole world. And Chattanooga needs to realize it is involved in the world. It's like, hey, get your children involved in a foreign language. And I would suggest that you look at Chinese. The high schools here should be teaching Chinese and getting it introduced. There's going to be 3 major languages that are already there: English, Spanish, Chinese.
Talk about the role of phonics. Why are phonics important? And are phonics sufficiently used, or are they used in a kind of broken fashion in the public sector here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County?
Okay. Let me just refer back to my district I came from. I would let my kindergarten teachers know that come January, I would take and schedule a certain day, and I wanted each one of the kindergartners to come in and read to me. The teacher would have a story, and they'd come in, and I would sit in a chair next to the superintendent's chair, and I'd have them sit there, and they would read to me. Those children, through a good phonics program, and they could sound out the words. I don't care how big the word is. They had the skills, and because they had a good phonics base, they could even start telling you what the word meant, because prefixes, suffixes, you get these things put together, you take the word sub. Well, they knew that's below. So when it came to submarine, then they knew it was below water.
And they knew marine was marine life, like
Yes.
fish and algae, and so it's underwater. So let's say a word like interpretation. You've got how would a boy who has not seen the word before, how would he see the word on the page? Interpretation. What does he do with that word, and how does he figure it out? What's the phonics method?
Okay. I'm not sure I'm going to use the specific. There are different phonics methods out there. Our children were taught how to isolate the root word. Once they isolate the root word, they would mark that down. They would then take the prefix and they look at that and see if that's one of the prefixes that they have learned to pronounce and the meaning of. Then they look for the suffixes and see if they knew what the suffix pronounce it, and if they knew what the meaning was. And they would start putting it together. If they didn't know the root word, we helped them with that. And then they added, if it's in means part of, inside of, and they could start working together. By putting all the prefix, suffix, the key root word, they were able to take and on their own. And I had this experience this past week with a first grader, several words, because he is advancing so much. Matter of fact, he's getting to be pretty good at chess too, because we do for all the children, 1 through 8. We teach chess at the end of the day for them. If we have a little time left over before starting a new area, we'll sit down with them. We'll play chess, and it's kind of a challenge because they all are trying to beat me in chess.
Well, my question, Dr. Dwight Mayberry of Mayberry After School Learning Center on phonics is this. Let me refine the question. Does phonics or do phonics arise from the sound? You said that you teach how to sound out the word. Why is that? Why is that important? Sound.
Because if they learn their consonant blends, if they learn the sound of the long and short vowels, if they learn all the different parts and pronunciation, they can then. We're trying to teach children to be thinkers. Start thinking, okay, I remember that. And they start putting it together. And as they think and they start putting it together, they come up with the word and the understanding of the word. And then we teach them, okay, look at that word in a sentence. From the sentence, quite often, they can also figure out the meaning of the word.
By context.
Yes.
So the word interpretation, to get to the word, to get to the meaning, you first have to get to the sounds. So you have interpretation. So you say it, you learn, okay, you think you might know what it means. You see it in the context. The teacher may say, well, that means this. And therefore you obtain the word, but you obtain the sounds first, right? You string the sounds together. That's the phonics miracle, I guess you could say, right? Okay. So, and now on the math side, Dr. Mayberry, what does your After School Learning Center emphasize, or is there a protocol or a system that you use on that side of your program?
We look at, first of all, do they have the basic knowledge of the operations down, addition, subtraction? Do they know their facts? Many of the children do not know their facts, so we go back and we start drilling them on their facts. We start using illustrations on the facts. We give them some computer exercises on the facts. So we try to hit them from several different ways of reinforcing until they have the skills. Then we get them to understand that, hey, and they like to get up in the whiteboard and do it. If you know multiplication, you know division, because it's the reverse.
So drill and, you might say, rote are important to gaining the basic skills in mathematics.
Yes. They have got to have the basic facts down. And parents, if your children don't have it, it's your responsibility to make sure that they do.
So my listener and his wife can have a multiplication table, right, on cardboard maybe, that has all the way up to 9 by 9 or maybe 15 by 15. The children can memorize by exercise, taking half an hour, sitting down, no smart devices going, no TV. This is after dinner, and work on those basic math facts.
Yes, you can go to Kmart. You can go to any of these stores. There's a shoebox over by the mall. Go there. Pick up a set of flashcards. You can pick up a chart. When I'm working with the children, we've drilled them. And then all of a sudden, they come up 9 times 7, and they're stumped. I don't help them right off. There's the chart over there, and they go over and have to look at the chart, and then they come back and they tell me what 9 times 7
and eventually their eye knows exactly where all the lines are, and their eye can jump right to the chart. And at some point that chart is internalized by just repeating the sum or the multiplication results,
and by also working with the computer in that and hearing it when the person's drilling them. They're hearing it, they're seeing it, it starts focusing.
Well, how expensive would it be for my listener to send his daughter who's in the 7th grade to your after-school situation, Dr. Mayberry?
Well, I have 6 volunteers now that help me. Myself and those 6, we're free. We volunteer completely. We do charge $4 an hour for one child. Now, if they're getting a piano lesson, they're probably going to be paying $20 to $25 for a half hour. We charge $4, so it's $8 a day for one child. If they have 2 children in the program, we give them a little reduction of $3.50. We get donations. Some people donate. We really need some more donations because these reading labs that we use are expensive, but they are successful with us working with it. They're very successful.
Well, how can my listener find out more about you, Dr. Dwight Mayberry?
Okay. You can take number one, we've sent out about 5,000 flyers. We need to develop a website. Right now, we have a waiting list of over 50 people wanting to come into the program that we've turned down. We will be having a summer school program that'll start the third week. We'll run 8 weeks during the summertime, and then we'll start back up in the fall. We are already committed. You can look, and there are phone numbers on. You can call me on my cell number or my home number, 423-362-8545. So give me a call. I'm glad to talk.
This is David Toulis, and we are talking with Dr. Dwight Mayberry of Mayberry After School Learning Center. We're brought to you by Advantage Printing, the print shop where my homeschool newsletter goes zipping out into the mails. I'm in fact working on it this Saturday on the Esprit newsletter, and it always ends up through the mails at Advantage Printing. Advantage is with the blue awnings right near the Belfour light on Brainerd Road, just by the Food City. Alan does in-house design, digital printing, mailing services that I take advantage of, large format projects. And the number is 629-1800, 629-1800. And also make sure that you get your ductwork cleaned out by Ducts, the indoor air professionals. A special offer for you on your house. If you have your house ductwork done, there's a freebie, and that is the elimination of a fire hazard at your dwelling, and that is the dryer lint vent and the trap there that is clogged and threatening to burst into flames maybe tomorrow. This is David Toulis. Dr. Mayberry, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, David.
The name is David Toulis. I do thank you for giving us a couple of minutes every time. We're at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, online at hotnewstalkradio.com. We have a YouTube channel. Just look for me there, and we're live on YouTube every day at 9 o'clock. Thanks for joining us.